Hey there, my name is Tom SneakyBeaky Taylor. I am a CSGO caster from UK and Ireland, and well, I've been casting for about 3 years now, again, predominantly focusing on CSGO, but I've done my fair share of other titles too. Well, originally getting introduced to video games was courtesy of my dad when he bought us a Nintendo Wii back in about 2007 or so. He got it for the family and we started off on Mario Kart. I was heavily addicted to that game. I would play it for hours on end, and that was sort of my first proper gaming experience. Obviously, you've got your browser games and your flash games, but that's when I slowly migrated onto a computer, and that was, of course, joined by Club Penguin and by a game called C-Fight, which I used to play with my dad, and then a short time later, World of Tanks. And so that was my sort of start in gaming. So C-Fight was my favourite game for a long time in tandem with Club Penguin. Again, I spent hours and hours on that thing. But when I started getting into, I guess, more proper gaming, I adored this game called Heroes and Generals, and I played that for about 6 years, and I would dedicate a lot of time into Heroes and Generals. And I'd like to think I got decently good at it as well. So I'd always sort of known about esports and competitive gaming and stuff, but the first time I really got into it is when my friend back in about 2015 got me to watch a Virtus Pro versus Fnatic Counter-Strike match. I can't remember the tournament or the context, but he was a super avid Fnatic fan, so I decided to be annoying and side with Virtus Pro. I like their logo a lot more. I mean, you can see it hanging on the wall behind me, and I've been a classic VP fan ever since. But that was my first proper introduction to esports, watching that game of CSGO, and then I bought the game a year later, and as you can see, I've not really looked back. I think it was just over time I started playing the game more, I started watching the game more, referring of course to Counter-Strike, and I saw arenas packed full of screaming fans. I saw the opportunities that esports was delivering. I mean, originally I kind of wanted to get into playing the game, but I didn't have enough time to spare, and I knew that it was a very competitive space. And I'm not saying that casting isn't a competitive space, but I really wanted to become a player from about 2017, 2018. I did put that aside and started taking casting very seriously in 2020, and from then on I've been fairly dead set on becoming a full-time caster, and that became a reality last year. Well, if we're going back to my original nickname, it was always Admiral Tom or something to do with that, because that's what I came up with when I used to play C-Fight with my dad and when I used to play Club Penguin, because, you know, it's sort of ocean related. But I realized that that probably wouldn't stick for going into Counter-Strike, because in 2018 I set up my own CSGO Instagram page where I would just post clips of myself, do silly memes and giveaways and that kind of stuff. And I thought a fresh start was required. I did some digging, and the voice line from Inferno, do we go in and loud, do we go in and sneaky beaky, like the sneaky beaky part just sort of stuck with me. I think it's a reference to something that was said in the Falklands War, but I didn't know that at the time. I just really liked it from the Inferno voice line, and I went with that, and it's sort of been what I've been using ever since. I think for casting, it was due to the nature of me realizing that becoming a player or a coach just weren't really for me. I did give it a go for a little while, but then as I started watching esports more, I've always been a singer, and so the sort of behind the scenes broadcasters always really appealed to me. Obviously, you got your Henry G's, your Machines, your Sponges, all that kind of stuff. All great casters. Pansy as well. I would listen to these guys for ages, especially during the start of lockdown, and it really just tuned me onto the possibility of becoming a caster. But I guess a little closer to home, someone who I've worked with a few times now and have an interesting backstory with, but I loved watching Crema and M&J back when they were a duo throughout the sort of tier 2 Counter-Strike sphere. They were really entertaining to listen to because they didn't don't take themselves too seriously, and that's what I like from a caster. But yeah, listening to all these guys slowly tuned me onto the opportunity of casting, and I actually started pursuing it, I guess, yeah, slightly before lockdown. I went to meet some casters in person at ECS Season 7, and I wanted to focus on my A-levels before I actively pursued anything, but when COVID hit, I started streaming. I started casting myself for fun when I started my streaming back in June of that year, and it slowly progressed and progressed until I actually got scouted to cast for British Army Esports, and I spent about 6 months with them, and then slowly but surely started getting some HLTV level opportunities. And then, as I said, last year is when I fully committed to it. I left university and I couldn't be happier. First memorable moment of my casting career. Well, if we go back a long way to the only Liquipedia level tournament I did in 2020, I casted a 1 versus 5 ace clutch from AJTT, and it was horrible looking back on it because the audio quality was shot. I was using a HyperX headset microphone, but I was just excited beyond belief because it wasn't just a 1v5 ace clutch, like it finished with a knife as well. It was so cleanly done, and yeah, that's a very vivid memory of, yeah, that's a very vivid memory I've got there. Biggest achievement in casting? I mean, it's an interesting one. In terms of caliber, I guess casting some of the 2021 RMRs was a big personal achievement for me. I'm very proud of all the stuff that I got to do there, but I reckon working on LAN for the first time back in, well, it was the ESL Benelux Winter Championship of the same year. I had an amazing time. It was just all super surreal to me. Yeah, I reckon casting my first ever LAN, managing to do it outside of the UK, which was again something pretty hard because of all the COVID restrictions and everything. It blew my mind completely, and I was so happy with how it all turned out, and that definitely spiraled into further good things for me. Oh my goodness. I mean, there's a couple. There's me going... I was laughing hysterically recently at some antics in CCT South America play-ins. The main Swiss as well. They always deliver some of the best moments because of the wacky style employed by a lot of the lower tier Brazilian teams of just continual rushing. It makes for very entertaining viewing, but honestly, just casting with some of the guys on CCT. I mean, I mentioned M&J earlier. It's been great being able to cast with him now, but just Pop, Hayes, Cytheria, everyone really. But just messing around with them is some of the funniest stuff I've ever been able to do in casting. And there's of course been other moments as well, back when I was on LAN, just cracking jokes with people, but yeah, I don't have a sort of single funniest moment, but I guess Casanito killing his teammate back in one of the online CCTs, that gave me a good giggle as well. Well, for the savvy among you, you will have realised I've pulled one of the jerseys off the wall behind me, and that's for this reason. So, I went to the Paris Major recently. I wasn't meant to be going. I had no plans to go. My passport wasn't renewed. But then last second, I got in touch with Heroic. I was working their fan interaction stand in the outskirts of the arena. Had an amazing time. Met so many amazing people. And here is my evidence to show it. I got a guest book jersey, if that makes any sense. Got to get the Heroic staff down there in the bottom, but yeah, this was honestly one of the coolest things that's happened just so unexpectedly in esports. Going out to Paris, working for Heroic, who were the number 1, number 2 team at the time. Yes, they didn't make it through to the finals, which was obviously disappointing for everyone involved. They probably should have made it, but obviously credit where credit is due to the wonderful Gamer Legion side, another one of our regulars. But just meeting everyone who I've known for a very long time, being able to play a small part in the running of the last ever CSGO Major, and again, getting all of these signatures, which is something incredibly unique. This will never be replicated. It does mean a lot, and it was really, really cool. I had a great time, and yeah, I'm so glad that I managed to get there. Okay, one of the coolest, probably Danky. Some of you might recognize him from the PGL Antwerp Major. He was the guy who graffitied the logo of the Antwerp Major under a bridge in the city of Antwerp. So obviously his signature's going to stand out there. We've got a couple of other fun ones. Wintero, I mean, we got B-Dog over there as well. Yeah, we got lots of cool signatures. We got a couple of CCT casters on here as well, so when we all become famous people, I'll sell this off, I'm sure. But yeah, there's a lot of important signatures here, and it's nice to have a memento that, you know, doesn't relate just to the players, but a lot of people behind the scenes as well. But speaking of the player signatures, I do also love collecting my player signatures too. So yeah, I wouldn't want to rule that out from future endeavors. Well, in terms of goals and aspirations, I think the obvious one for any caster, especially in CSGO, is to cast at a major in some capacity. But at the same time, scaling back things for now, I do want to just work as many lands as possible. I want to be able to continue living off of what I love to do. Yeah, I'm hoping for a tier 1 or at least a tier 2 land next year that will help sort of just elevate me. But I'm looking to continue being able to make a living off of this and just continue meeting amazing people and, yeah, picking up on amazing opportunities through esports. It doesn't necessarily have to be casting. I, again, loved running Heroics booth for them at the Paris Major, more stuff like that, maybe a bit more hosting, interviewing, but I just want to keep going and keep traveling as well. That's another important thing, but lands, traveling, living off of esports, that's the goals and aspirations for the future. Okay, well, to wrap things up, a couple more fun facts about me. If it wasn't already obvious, I collect esports memorabilia. I don't know if the editor can whack up a picture on the screen of something I'll send him later, but I have a little sort of shrine to esports going on my right over here. Trying to get the genuine collectible pins for CSGO all collected. It's become more and more expensive in recent times, so I think that dream might have to be put on hold. Apparently it's $8,000 for a full Series 1 collection, so if anyone's willing to give me a discount on that, it would be amazing, but I'll stop my rambling now. Again, thank you for CCT for allowing me to continue with my passion as a job as well as a hobby. Hopefully I'll be back up streaming again soon so I can supplement some of this extra content. Otherwise, I have been Tom or SneakyBeaky. It's been a pleasure, and I hope you all enjoy the show.